We are now live.
Welcome everyone to the Board of Regents meeting. I would like to take a moment to welcome our new Director of Board Affairs and Associate Board Secretary, Felicia Brown. Felicia, welcome. We look forward to working with you. I'd like to now ask Secretary Buffkin to take the roll.
Good morning, everyone. Chair Marty Guay,
Present.
Vice Chair Juanita James. Present. Regent Richard Balducci. Regent Ira Bloom. Regent Dell Cummings. Regent Sophia Japanin.
Present.
Regent Richard Porth. Regent Ari Santiago.
Present.
Regent Don Williams. Regent Elise Wright.
Present.
Regent Ted Yang. His absence is noted. Student Regent Dakota Lawson. Student Regent Tyler Yee. FAC Regent Kalina Sisenker.
Here.
Ex officio Commissioner Bartolomeo. Ex officio Commissioner Manisha Jutani. Ex officio Commissioner O'Keefe. Ex officio Commissioner Russell Tucker. Ex officio Chief Workforce Officer Kelly Marie Vallières. Ex officio Regent Undersecretary Charlene Casamento. Interim Chancellor John Maduco.
Present.
President Zolma Toro. President Ed Klanoski. President Karim Ismaili.
Present.
Interim President Sandra Bulmer.
Present.
President Jesse Bernal. Interim President Christina Royal. Have a quorum.
Thank you so kindly. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Is there a second? I hear a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries and our agenda is adopted. Chancellor Maduco, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Guay. Vice Chair James, Regents, esteemed colleagues, good morning and happy Thursday. First and foremost, I want to speak to March annually being Women's History Month, and really demonstrating and expressing our recognition and gratitude of what this month means to our country. So in recognition of Women's History Month, I want to acknowledge the extraordinary women leading across our system, from Regent Juanita James, Elise Wright, Sophia Japanin, Dr. Kalina Sisenker, Dr. Kelly Vallières, and Undersecretary Charlene Casamento, Southern's President Sandy Bulmer, Central's President Zolma Toro, CT State's President Christina Royal, and along with CT State's Campus Presidents Sherelle Mathis, Cheryl Devanich, Mary Ellen Zukowski, and Xiang Kui Wang. To the faculty and staff across our system, WestConn's Professor Catherine Rowe and Melissa Stevens, Eastern's Provost Cheryl Wilson, and Christina Irizarry, Central's Professor Luis Williams and Lisa Busher, Southern's Amy Beth and Coach Kate Lynch, CT State's Professor and Staff and Instructor Mary Bidwell, and Nicola Ricker, and Charter Oak's Nancy Taylor. These leaders have shaped and continue to shape our institutions, blaze trails, and pave the way for future generations. We're deeply grateful for the women across our system, the faculty, the staff, the administrators, the leaders, whose impact, whose leadership and talent and dedication strengthen our institutions every day. Yeah, absolutely. And that's simply just a sample size of the impact and the great women we have across the system. At Charter Oak, we have initiated the presidential search. So we are working with the academic search firm. They have posted the position. They will begin to recruit nationally and leveraging their networks to build an applicant pool to help the search committee do their work. Very appreciative to for Ms. Maley for leading the efforts, and to the faculty and staff serving on that committee. We held virtual listening sessions the past couple of weeks where we gathered the insight of Charter Oak's campus community, their alumni, foundation members. We also listened to members of the Board of Regents, our institutional presidents, on what should be the qualities and experiences the college, Charter Oak, needs in its next president. These insights were used to develop a leadership profile, which is essential in recruiting the most qualified and innovative candidates. The application is live, and they're accepting applications and nominations. We are committed to identifying a leader who will build on President Konoski's legacy and continue to advance in Charter Oak's mission as Connecticut's only fully online public college, delivering high-quality, affordable, and workforce-aligned education for adult learners. Enrollment updates, and we'll have a more finalized report next month. But across our 4 state universities, total enrollment for this spring, year over year, has increased 4%. So kudos to our state universities. CT State's up in enrollment by 2%, and we are awaiting Charter Oak State College to complete its spring census later this month. Workforce Pell. Workforce Pell is a component of HR 1, also known as the Big Beautiful Bill. So there are opportunities for alignment with our workforce ecosystem. CSU is working in collaboration with state partners to prepare for a federal implementation where timelines that are related to the expansion of Workforce Pell. We're actively coordinating with the Office of Workforce Strategy, the Connecticut Conference of Independent Colleges, UConn, the Department of Labor, and the State Department of Education, with our focus on defining which programs will meet federal eligibility criteria. With Workforce Pell, it introduces new accountability standards. So these eligible programs, must demonstrate the following: alignment with high wage, high skill, or in-demand occupations, stackable, portable, and industry-recognized credentials, strong outcomes, including at least 70% completion and 70% employment rates, and clear value, including earnings gained relative to program cost to the median earnings for high school graduates, and at least 1 year of program history. So there's a lot that goes into that. We commend our partners across the state. We want to be ready come July 1st of this year. Additionally, the Governor's Workforce Council has outlined guiding priorities, including focusing on sectors critical to Connecticut's long-term economic competitiveness, building a middle rung of workforce education that bridges short-term training and degree attainment, and expanding access to high-quality career pathways, especially for historically underrepresented populations. CSCU, we play a crucial central role in aligning programs to meet these standards, and we will be submitting both initial and renewal applications for approval. Next, some legislative updates. We recently participated in the Appropriations Committee Working Group session. I want to thank our university and college presidents, our institutional CFOs, our system budget and finance division for the extensive preparation and collaboration leading up to that working group session. Our collective efforts resulted in a strong and well-received presentation where we were commended for our preparation, clarity, and engagement with legislators. The Appropriations Committee is expected to release its proposed budget in early April. In the coming weeks, we'll continue to actively advocate for the resources for our institutions need and the impact we deliver for the state of Connecticut. Next week, we will testify before the General Obligations Bonding Subcommittee to advocate for the release of previously authorized but not yet allocated bond funds. These investments are critical. They will allow us to address deferred maintenance, enhance campus safety, and modernize classrooms, labs, student spaces, ensuring environments that support student success, engagement, and completion. Next is the CSCU Day at the Capitol. So we are excited to host CSCU Day at the Capitol on April 16th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., where our institutions will literally take over the first floor of the Capitol building. We will be organizing our Day at the Capitol around 7 strategic pillars: healthcare, education, AI, innovation, engineering, manufacturing, liberal arts and sciences, and the affordability and also the school pride that comes with what we do. We want to showcase how CSCU and its institutions serve as Connecticut's primary talent engine. This is a huge and important opportunity to tell our unified system-wide story about how our institutions are meeting workforce needs, driving innovation, and serving the state. I encourage our regions to attend. I encourage students. We're working with our presidents and their teams to ensure that we have student and program representatives and we truly look forward to seeing you there. So again, that's April 16th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then lastly, it is March Madness. March Madness has started for both women's and men's basketball. And I kind of want to speak to the recent achievements by our athletic teams across CSCU. So to start, congratulations to the Southern's women's basketball team on capturing their first Northeast 10 conference title since the 2006-2007 season, an outstanding milestone for the program. A shout out to Central's men's basketball team for qualifying for the 2026 NEC men's basketball tournament as the number 2 seed. And while their run ended in the quarterfinals against Wagner, it was a strong and competitive season. Next is Eastern Connecticut State University's baseball team, who continues to build momentum, closing out their time in Davenport, Florida with a 5-0 record today, including a doubleheader against Worcester State. And notably, head coach Mike Oldenwalder achieved his 100th career win during a victory over Benedictine. And lastly, Western Connecticut State University student junior Madison Preston has been named the Little East Conference Women's Lacrosse Defensive Player of the Week following her standout performance in a 20-7 win over Westfield State. So our student athletes do tremendous work. Our coaches, our trainers across our universities are doing God's work, in my opinion, in terms of their recruitment, their development of our men and women in these teams who when they're done with us, turn out to be great leaders and professionals. So just kudos to athletics. I would list all of our mascots, but I'm missing one of them in my mind. So I'm just going to say, hey, let's cheer them all on for our spring sports. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back to you.
Thank you, Chancellor Meduco, and thank you for acknowledgement all of the women, spoken and unspoken, in your talk. We appreciate that. I had a chance to go to a men's hockey game at Western in February. I got invited by a colleague of ours, our Western Senate President Jeff Schlicht. He said you should come out to a hockey game, and I did. And spent a Saturday out at Western, and it was really a terrific opportunity to see the student spirit. There was a game against Keene State. I think we won, although I don't know the score, but I think we won. And it was just a great way to see the collegiality of our colleagues. You know, President Bernal was there, and many other people from our, Lori, our athletic director, and John, our IT leader, and just all kinds of people there. So if you get a chance, go. It's a great way to be with people and to see people. We have a full agenda today. I want to note that we have updates from our committee chairs with a number of action items for discussion during those updates. The action items are then expected to be taken up as part of the consent agenda. We're very mindful to get the order correct in terms of getting our committee discussion first, and then moving to our consent agenda. In terms of public comment, we have one individual who has requested to speak today. At this time, I'd like to turn the microphone over to Associate Board Secretary Felicia Brown to manage our public comments.
Thank you, Chair Guay. We have one student who would like to offer public comments today. The speaker is remote. Our speaker is Luis Sebastian Sanchez, a student at Central Connecticut State University and a former student regent. Luis, do you have your 3 minutes ready?
Yeah.
You may begin.
This might be a little bit different than your usual public comment. I have met a lot of you, so it's really nice to see a lot of the faces. I apologize that I wasn't able to be in person, but I'm hoping to make a trip to Hartford in the next board meeting and see everyone and say hi. So good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Board of Regents, and ex-official members. As many of you know, my name is Luis Sebastian Sanchez. I'm currently a senior at Central State Connecticut University, majoring in management information systems with a double minor in psychological sciences and applications of artificial intelligence. I had the honor to serve in this prestigious board as a student regent for the past years. So I want to begin by thanking all of you for your leadership, obviously your time, and your continued commitment for students across the system. In my time during the Board of Regents, I saw firsthand how you guys always try to put students first, and that was very much appreciated. I also want to thank you, each and every single one of you. The way you welcomed me during the time as a student regent was highly valuable to me as a young individual, and I really appreciate it. You guys really opened the doors, your conversations and trust onto me. And personally, as someone who comes as a first generation student, this experience was a truly life changing experience. It gave me a completely different perspective on leadership, decision making, and the impact that the board had on the students across the system. This experience did not just shape me, my time as a student, but it changed my outlook in the future and what was possible for me. So for that, I thank you guys because this experience really did change the outlook of what was possible for me. So I really appreciate it. I also want to congratulate Tyler and Dakota. Dakota had the opportunity to serve with you in the Student Advisory Committee. So I'm confident in your leadership moving forward. Huge shout out to you. And I also wanted to speak something that I've been briefly on something that I've been super passionate about, and that has had a direct impact in my journey thus far in my university, which is experiential learning. At Central Connecticut State University, there are strong efforts underway to expand experiential learning across the university and make these opportunities more accessible to students. I commend them to that myself. Have found these experiences to be truly life-changing and have led to meaningful employment. And when leveraged correctly, they can completely shift the student's trajectory, not just myself. The reality is that in today's job market, there's increasing demands for hands-on experience for students and AI training and literacy. A degree alone is no longer enough for a lot of students. Employers are seeking and looking for students that can demonstrate real skills, real projects, and real world problem solving, as well with AI literacy increasing overall. Experiential learning bridges the gap, in my opinion. It connects the theory that we learn in the classroom and what's expected in the workforce. And importantly, this work directly aligns with the board goals, expanding access, improving student access and completion, and strengthening workforce readiness across the system. I want to commend everyone here to continue to scale these opportunities through real partner companies, real world projects, and industry engagement, which I think are highly valuable. And this is not just going to improve the overall education, but it's going to have amazing outcomes for a lot of the students in the communities that we serve. With that being said, I want to encourage everyone to please continue investing in the expansion in this area because I found myself and other students to benefit from it. And this should not just be limited to a small number of students. I think it should be something that is available for all students. And for that, I thank you guys for your time. Thank you.
Chair Gray, that concludes the public comment period today.
Thank you, Felicia. And Luis, thank you. You bear witness to the work, and your word is important for us. And your voice has always been clear in terms of what you've agreed with and what you've disagreed with. So continue to be who you are. I know that Dr. Toro is quite proud to claim you as her own, but we all claim you as our own. So
It started CT.
thank you. We started CT State, but we're not going to give you that job. We'll give Christina that credit. We'll give Christina that credit. Next on our agenda is approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 26th regular meeting? Thank you. We got a second, a motion and a second. Are there any changes or corrections, any amendments? I would, any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries and the minutes are approved. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our distinguished chair of our Academic and Student Affairs Committee, Ira Bloom. I understand you have a report and the action items are in the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Academic and Student Affairs Committee met on March 6th Present at the meeting were committee members Regent Juanita James and Regent Rick Porth, as well as the committee chair. Also present was our ex officio member, Professor Kalina Sasanker. According to board policy, honorary degrees, which you will find in item 13A of the agenda, of the consent agenda, recognize unusual and exemplary accomplishments to advance work and reputation of Connecticut State colleges and universities. The ASA committee reviewed the records, heard recommendations from the campus provosts, discussed, endorsed, and unanimously approved, recommending to the full board, the 8 nominations for honorary degrees made by 5 of the campuses. With your permission, if the board now approves the consent agenda, each of the honorary degrees will be awarded at the campus commencements. With your permission, Chairman Gay, I would like to call on each of the 5 presidents to make brief statements about their nominees for the honorary degrees.
Accepted and approved.
President Kanowski, on behalf of Kristen Fox, would make a brief statement about the candidate.
F,
Okay.
the president of BHEF. She's been a big supporter of the college, and part of my announcement later will mention work we're doing with them. We got funded through the Axum Collaborative with BHEF to do some more work. She's just been a great higher ed partner, and that's why we're nominating her.
Thank you, President Klonowski. Connecticut State President Royal, on behalf of Sarah Gatsby.
Yes. Yes, we're supportive of that.
You want to make a brief statement about your candidate?
Oh, we're very excited for her candidacy and glad that we could support that.
Thank you. President Burnell, on behalf of Robert Yeaman.
I'm going to brag a little longer than my 2 colleagues, if that's okay. So Bob Yeaman, many of you may know him. He's been in Danbury his entire life. He has started a law firm there. He was a student at WestConn and graduated. Let me look. He graduated in 1979. And this is the cool story about Bob. He, came from a low-income family, first gen, finished 2 bachelor's degrees in 2 years, and then went on to Harvard to get his law degree. We think he's the first person from WestConn to go to any of the Ivy Leagues for graduate school, and he tells this story to all of our students. And so now they're all thinking about Harvard for graduate school, which has been really exciting. And, he could have gone on to do anything, but he came back to Danbury, raised his family there, started a law firm there, and then sent all of his kids to WestConn too. So they're a really proud WestConn alum and a really proud family. And just on a personal note, Bob and Judge Yeaman, his wife, who has been a judge in Danbury for 30 years, have been the most welcoming family to Sam and I. We've been to their home a number of times. They hosted an event for us. So just personally, they've been a great partner and champion of the institution. So thank you for the honor of nominating Bob.
Thank you, President Burnell. It's nice to hear about the connections, the close connections that is maintained with President Bulmer, on behalf of 2 candidates, Christopher O'Connor and Justin Elliker.
Yep.
Not too, she was on the call before.
Yep.
President Ismaili, on behalf of 3 candidates, David Foster, Marilyn Foster, and Beth Reagan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Well, we're honored and proud to present David Foster and Marilyn Foster for our graduate commencement ceremony as honorary doctorate recipients. David and Marilyn are incredible members of the region, the community, the town of Wyndham, and the community of Willimantic. Together, their philanthropic efforts have touched virtually every facet of the town, and they have been incredible supporters to Eastern. You may know David Foster. He's a storied musician, having played with Muddy Waters, B.B. King, all sorts of people. But most importantly, he's also brought culture and entertainment to the campuses of Eastern Connecticut through the Shabu Inn, which is now a showcase stage in the region. He has provided a great deal of support. Both of them have provided a great deal of support to various projects and organizations in the region, including the Covenant Soup Kitchen and Project Hope. So we're honored. Marilyn has done incredible work supporting the efforts of the foundation that they've set up. So for us, they had to be honored at the same time because they're both exemplary representatives of Eastern Connecticut. If I could continue,
Yes, please. Yes.
we're also thrilled to advance Beth Regan, a graduate of Eastern from 1979, and also chairwoman and justice of the Mohegan Tribal Council of Elders. As I mentioned, Beth graduated in 1979. She's played a major role in advancing Native American education. She's focused on Indigenous perspectives, ensuring that they're respectfully and accurately represented in public schools. She was a multi-sport athlete at Eastern. She coached our first soccer team. She's in Eastern's Athletic Hall of Fame and also in Connecticut's Soccer Hall of Fame. Most importantly, she continues to give back to Eastern in ways that really touch the lives of our staff, our faculty, and our students. Currently, she serves as a chairwoman and justice on the Tribal Council of Elders of the Mohegan Tribe. And most recently, she was the keynote speaker at our land acknowledgement ceremony. So we're thrilled to present Beth Regan, another exemplary warrior, Eastern warrior, to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The details about the Southern candidates, Christopher O'Connor and Justin Elliker, are in the package of board materials. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. President Bulmer, would you like to talk about your two nominees for honorary degrees?
I apologize. I have less than perfect internet connection. Hopefully you can hear me. We have two nominees because these are both just outstanding partners in New Haven. Chris O'Connor has been an excellent partner with Yale New Haven Health Systems in helping us to scale our healthcare enrollments and increase access specifically to our nursing program. We've been able to double the number of nurses we graduate with his support, and we're really looking forward to continuing that partnership. The other nomination, Justin Elliker, has been the mayor of New Haven and an incredibly important partner to Southern Connecticut State University. We started our relationship together during COVID when I was the dean of the College of Health and Human Services. And the way we worked together in lockstep to navigate those very difficult days and months and years that have followed, and then continue to build a partnership where we truly are focused on health equity in the New Haven community has really been special and important to us. So we're very proud to honor both of those individuals.
Thank you, President Bulmer. All the candidates will be approved if the board approves the consent agenda item further down. The ASA committee also considered, discussed, and endorsed, without a formal recorded vote, the recommended updates to CSCU's Family Educational Rights and Privacy Policy, affectionately known as FERPA, as set forth in item 13G of today's agenda. FERPA was enacted in 1974 after being introduced by Senator James Buckley of New York. And for a long time, it was referred to as the Buckley Amendment, although we seem to have forgotten about Senator Buckley by now, but I remember him well. It regulates access and disclosure of student records. Except for defined directory information, consent to release of information about a student is generally required from the student. The policy was last amended by CSCU in 2021. The new amendments in today's package reflect changes and clarifications to the definition of directory information, which again is information about a student that can be shared without the consent of the student, unless the student opts out, as well as other changes as outlined in the BOR packet. And perhaps most significantly, these amendments also identify metadata, data that provides context and details for other data, for example, an email sender, recipient, and status subject, and web interaction, the web browsing by that IP address, as part of the educational records when directly related to students and maintained by the institution. As only a few of us in the room will recall, when FERPA became effective more than half a century ago, FERPA caused considerable consternation among many parents who suddenly learned that they could not get information from a college about the grades of their student children 18 or older, some of whom were living in their homes, and many of whom were being supported by the parents. I remember receiving and dealing with phone calls from irate parents who demanded to know what their child had done, and being able to say, I can't tell you that anymore. But in any event, we are recommending, the committee has endorsed the recommendations to FERPA, which appear in the attached materials. It brings it up to date. The ASA committee also received an initial preliminary report from the CSU, the Dual Credit Advisory Council. The work of the council is proceeding apace, and some subsequent reports will be forthcoming for the ASA committee and the board in the relatively near future. In addition, several modifications to academic programs at Central and Southern were reviewed and recommended by ASA, as set forth in items 13C, D, E, and F of the consent agenda. These reflect the ongoing program review process and adjustments to changing accreditation requirements that go on continually at the campuses. Mr. Chairman, thank you, Chair Gay.
Thank you, Chair Bloom. We appreciate your always succinct and detailed update, and thanks for bringing clarity to FERPA and recognizing Senator Buckley. Chair
is a challenge.
Chair of the Audit Committee, Don Williams, I understand you have a report. Your microphone needs to be on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Guay. We had a special meeting of the Audit Committee on March 10th. At that meeting, we welcomed Brian Green as Director of CSCU's Internal Audit and staff to the Audit Committee. Brian brings tremendous experience, as most of you know. His experience is very deep in auditing and accounting, certainly in the higher education realm, but also notably at the U.S. Department of Defense. And we look forward to working very closely with Brian. We also thanked Elise Wright for her leadership and excellent work as chair of the Audit Committee. She's continuing on as a member of that committee. We reviewed and approved the internal audit charter after comments and explanation from Brian Green. The internal audit charter outlines the role and responsibility of the internal audit division, including assessing internal controls and overall performance regarding CSCU's operational objectives, reporting objectives, and compliance objectives. There was discussion of extending CSCU's existing external auditing contract with the CPA firm of Grant Thornton for an additional 2 years. The committee voted to recommend an extension of that contract, and the extension was later approved by the Finance Committee. The Audit Committee began a discussion of the committee's own existing charter. Brian Green prepared proposed revisions, including modifications as to membership, statement of purpose, and organizational independence. We will continue working on the Audit Committee charter revisions and anticipate a vote on the changes at our regular meeting in May. And finally, we also considered revisions to our calendar to add quarterly updates on any internal audit reports or projects and external audit recommendations and adjustments.
Thank you, Chair Williams. This is not a glorious committee, but it's a really, really important committee for the BOR. So we appreciate your leadership on the Audit Committee and continuing the great work of Regent Elise Wright. So thank you for your willingness to serve on this important committee and your collaboration with the other committees to include finance and infrastructure. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our Chair of Finance and Infrastructure, Chair Richard Balducci. I understand you have a report and some action items on the consent agenda. And I'll ask you to turn on your microphone, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met on Wednesday, the 11th, and we had 9 action items. All of them, by the way, are on the consent agenda. 3 policy approvals, 2 fund balance items, 3 partnership agreements, and 1 contract, which you just heard about. That being said, I would like to turn over for explanation for the policies that we're going to be accepting today, and I would turn that over to our Chancellor, John Madurko, to explain to members as to what was voted on.
Hey, good morning, Chair Balducci. I'll cover and speak to the Finish Line Scholarship Program, but at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Lloyd Blanchard to the podium to explain and walk us through the other policy recommendations.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good morning, Regents, Presidents, colleagues. So we, in addition to the Finish Line Scholarship Program, we are requesting, and the Finance Committee approved or recommended approval of 2 policies. 1 is the use of institutional funds. 2 is the software asset capitalization policy. In terms of the use of institutional funds, this policy clarifies what counts as institutional funds and explicitly prohibits uses such as departmental social events, gifts for staff, donations for nonprofits, and allowing legitimate business purposes such as recruiting meals, HR administered milestones, and the like. The policy, excuse me 1 minute. The policy makes clear what are institutional funds. Institutional funds refer to all operating and non-operating dollars received from whatever source we receive them from, be they from state appropriations, student tuition and fees, or auxiliary funds. Institutional funds do not include funds held by our associated foundations. Those are considered independent funds and can be used in accordance with the policies set by the foundations. Mainly, as I said before, the prohibition is related to gifts. The prohibition is related to social functions, but there is an exclusion or an exemption for sponsorships. Sponsorships are those types of arrangements where we make a deal with another outside organization for whom we are allocating funds for services in return. So it's the services in return that makes these expenditures allowable. So with that, I will, and finally, in terms of enforcement, enforcement can include reimbursement or restriction of reimbursement from CSCU, and indeed, in violations of this policy may result in appropriate disciplinary actions up to and including termination. I'll take whatever questions you may have on the use of institutional funds policy. All right. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to the software asset capitalization policy. This policy sets a $5,000 capitalization threshold for software, which includes major implementations such as Banner SaaS, and requires tracking of internal labor of large projects. It includes explicit enforcement language, such as up to and including termination, and has been approved by the state controller. This particular policy was made after negotiating with the state controller because the state law required, or the state required, that we track assets, software assets, at a much lower level than $5,000. As institutions of higher education, we regularly, our faculty regularly deal with software products that are far less than $5,000 for one course or another, for their research project or another. That's why we negotiated successfully with the state controller this $5,000 limit, which is the practice we had been undertaking prior to implementing this policy. So with that, I will stop and ask for your questions regarding the software asset capitalization policy.
I have
Mr. Chair.
yes. Do we capitalize the software on a deployment such as Banner SaaS, or do we also capitalize the labor to deploy?
We do capitalize on large projects like Banner SaaS. We capitalize all costs associated with the project.
And if there's cost overruns, they get capitalized past so to say, if we have a approval to capitalize a project and we run over on labor, we typically never run over on software costs. Do we capitalize that?
I believe we do, yes, according to my controller. Yes, we do.
Okay.
Other questions? Mr. Chancellor, that's all I have for the policies.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Blanchard. And I'll cover the finish line, the CT Finish Line Scholarship Program. This work began in the summer of 25, and it's been a heavy lift with colleagues within the system office and the parts of our institutional presidents and their respective financial aid leaders. The CT State Finish Line Scholarship Program builds on the success of the Pact Marianne Hanley debt-free community college program but by providing financial support to eligible students transferring from CT State to one of our four-year institutions, so the four state universities and Charter Oak State College. I mean, basically, this is a transfer scholarship program, and the program's intended to ensure that students who begin at CT State can finish via a debt-free pathway at one of our four-year institutions. The proposed policy today before you establishes the operational framework required to implement the program consistent with Public Act 25-168, including the eligibility criteria in the areas of award calculation methodology, fiscal constraints, and program administration. This program will operate as a last dollar scholarship, covering the remaining tuition and mandatory fees after the Pell Grant and other eligible financial aid are applied. And this is subject to available appropriations. The policy also includes the waiver of application fees and enrollment deposits for eligible students to reduce barriers to transfer and ensure that our students can pursue bachelor's degree completion without additional upfront cost. Our institutional research teams at CT State conducted a modeling exercise to approximate the number of students who could be eligible per the statutory requirements. And that figure was 5,587 students per this current 25-26 academic year. But based on the current modeling assumptions, the estimated average annual finish line award is approximately $8,750 to $9,750 per student, depending on Pell eligibility, enrollment intensity, and financial aid applied. However, the current appropriations do not align with the full scope of statutory eligibility. In other words, the 5,587 students projected to be eligible per statute would not be covered by the proposed appropriations. So with the governor's FY27 recommended appropriations of $3.85 million would only support about 350 to 450 students. With the originally adopted FY27 appropriations of $7.7 million, that would only support approximately 800 and 900 students. So we're facing a situation where we would be turning away CT State students who have received the Pact Marianne Hanley Award, who are interested in transferring to one of our four-year institutions. So given these constraints, our phenomenal institutional presidents worked in partnership with the system office leadership and agreed to limit the initial implementation to students earning an associate's degree during the 25-26 academic year or later. And this internal implementation parameter narrows the projected eligible student population from the original 5,587 students down to 1,300 students. And this allows us to launch this program in a fiscally responsible manner, while prioritizing the need to complete an associate's degree in order to be eligible and continue forward. Even with this narrowed pool, it would be a first come, first serve type of program, right? And that aligns with what the Packed Marianne Handley Award is at CT State. It's first come, first serve. Because the funding levels of the program remain uncertain, the initial implementation period presents planning challenges for both our institutions and the system office. So therefore, we really rely on continued support, continued state support is going to be critical to ensure that this program can be both sustainable for both current and future cohorts of eligible students. I know there's been questions by legislators and other leaders across the state regarding can we use reserves? Reserves are not a appropriate funding source because the reserves are one-time funding, right? We want this to be a continued resource. There's also been questions about how about the institutions issuing more institutional aid? All 6 of our institutions issue a lot of institutional aid. Institutional aid is needs-based, right? Needs-based for students. Pack Marianne Handley has never been needs-based, right? We do not factor household income in terms of who's awarded the Pack Marianne Handley Award. And this Finish Line Scholars Program follows that same methodology, right? So institutional aid, though very important, is not aligned with the purpose of this type of program. Lastly, we have established a financial aid framework and a implementation plan for the Finish Line program that includes a communication strategy, includes a website, includes collaboration between our financial aid officers at the institutions in partnership with the system office, because CSCU will be responsible in terms of the oversight ultimately of this program. So kudos to all of our leaders who've been involved. So in the board packet, we've provided an executive summary, a staff report that kind of gives the overview, the figures, the methodology, the projections of who can be served. But ultimately, we support this type of program, right? We want to make a debt-free pathway within our system a reality for the people of Connecticut. We know that transfer has been a priority of this board as it relates to keeping more of our students within the system between the community college and our 4-year institutions. And then lastly, this is another example of how CSCU, our 6 institutions, we are the definition of accessibility and affordability. So Chair Balducci, I yield my time back to you and happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for the Chancellor on that? Yes, Ari.
Well, I just wanted to jump in to say, agree with everything that was said, but also to reference the fact that in the Finance Committee, the approval was contingent upon and agreed upon that we are going to be relying on the state funding to support this program. Certainly, we'd love more of it. We think there's some great stuff here, but we are not going to use institutional funds to backfill any gaps in this mandate. So we're grateful for everything we get, but I just wanted to make sure it was clear this won't be creating a backdoor burden on the system financially at this time.
Thank you, Ari. Any other comments?
Question.
Yes.
The question I have is there an opportunity for us to do private fundraising to support this program? And has that been discussed?
That's a great question, and I welcome insights from our institutional presidents. I think for me, my first concern is we don't want to create competing priorities within our system, right? So we do leverage a lot of fundraising through our institutional foundations, and to a much lesser degree with the CSCU Foundation. This is a niche program, and I think we have 5 years plus of a positive, successful track record with the Marianne Handley Award at CT State, where north of $91 million has been appropriated to the system, and more than 34,000 students have been supported, and has demonstrated increases in graduation rates and retention, right? So we believe as a system, we've demonstrated the effectiveness of this type of program, and that's going to be at the core of our argument with the General Assembly in terms of the need for adequate and sustainable investment in this type of program. President Tora.
I think that there is a possibility, but we have to keep in mind a couple of things. Usually, private funding that comes from donors have the donor intent associated with those funds. So we need to keep that in mind. I think that the most effective way to get private funding to complement the funding coming from the state is through private foundations. Submit a grant request to a foundation explicitly explaining the conditions and requirements associated with the funding as they have been stated by the legislature.
Any other further comments? Yes, Rich.
I'll make this quick. I just want to say thank you to the Finance Committee. A little bit different topic, one of the things we discussed earlier. This policy concerning the use of institutional funds for gifts, social functions, sponsorships, and donations is really important, I think. It spells out very clearly what's allowable and what is not allowable. And I think that's an ongoing priority for our board and for the system to show the public and to show students and to show other people who contribute here that we're using their money appropriately. So I want to say thank you for that.
Well stated, thank you. Any other comments? Not, we'll move along to the fund balance action plan. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, hi.
Alina, I'm sorry, not that I didn't see.
No worries. Thanks, Rich. Hybrid is hard. I just wanted to just jump into this conversation about, we may need to supplement with private sources of funding, but I do want to speak to the fact that, that these are public institutions, and I think we continue to see a disconnect or an ambivalence, perhaps, on the part of the legislature in the sense of writing legislation that expresses a certain hope or aim or shape for our system that is then not supported by funding that can actually make that viable or sustainable. And, this does have a great track record, as Chancellor Maduco mentioned, and this should be the direction that we're going, even if I don't know if PACT is or whatever we're calling it now, this funding source is the best structure to move towards the kind of publicly supported tuition coverage from the state. Either way, it's just, I think we really need to advocate to fill that gap between the intentions and the actual funding that the state provides to make it possible. So, yeah, just public funding would be great.
Thank you. Other comments? Oh, I thought you were waiting to another speaker. I'm sorry. Any other comments? If not, then we'll move on to the next area, the fund balance action plan. There were two fund balance action plans, one for Eastern and one for Western. Eastern Connecticut State University initially planned reserves use for critical capital projects that would have driven reserves below the 30-day. We have, as you know, the 30-day and 90-day, and you have to be within that, would have driven them below the 30 days. An additional $3.1 million in chief of bonds related capital funds now allow Eastern to complete their projects and remain above the 30-day threshold. The committee approved the action plan, but emphasized that this is a near-term fix and that Eastern still needs a robust, long-term, sustainable plan. The Western Connecticut State University piece on this presented a fund balance plan embedded in the broader, quote, fiscal resiliency blueprint, unquote, to address both reserves and an $18.2 million deficit. Actions include tightening personnel and operating controls, overtime management, financial aid optimization, administrative restructuring, and targeting one-time investments tied to enrollment and reserve growth, and that's quite a bit of work to be done. The committee has stressed that the true reserve restoration depends on closing the structural deficit, not just shifting the balances. So those were the two items that fell under the fund balance piece. Both were unanimously approved by the committee. The three partnership agreements we have.
Excuse me, Chair Balducci.
Oh, excuse me, any comments or questions?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Please, Ari.
No, I just wanted to say that the Finance Committee is well aware that the fund balance policies and the future management of the fund balances need to be aligned with and coordinated with long-term financial sustainability plans. And the committee is in the process of working with the institutional leaders in the system office to make sure that those plans which have been discussed at the broader board continue to be discussed at the committee. We'll be taking action and looking at those projections will be aligned to our FY27 spending plans that we're working on. So I think it's important that we acknowledge this is part of a bigger conversation, and we are fully aware of that and look forward to reporting back to the entire board on progress in that regard.
And Ari, I'd like to thank you for being kind of point on that to help direct us in the right direction. Many people have many things, and that's certainly your bailiwick, so to speak. And I certainly appreciate it as chairman of the Finance Committee.
If I was wearing a hat, I would tip it to you.
Now I'm lost. Where was I? So the fund balances. So we had three partnership agreements. Two are with Central, and one of them is with Western, I believe. Eastern, excuse me. The two at Central are our electric boat, CCSU graduate certificates and apprenticeship aligned programs with a 5% discount with EB employees. And it's a one-year pilot, and I would make the point right now that all three of these comments are one-year projects and one-year pilot programs. The Weathersfield Chamber of Commerce and CCSU's 5-year undergraduate discount and a $1,000 graduate scholarship for chamber members, employees. And that, again, as I said, is a one-year pilot. And then DEEP, which is a little different but involved. Eastern allows DEEP employees to audit environmental earth science projects where seats are available. And I think it's key to keep that in mind, where seats are available. If we have an opportunity to get a full tuition as opposed to a $250 seat sitting, we're going to take the tuition individual. So those are the three that dealing with that. The last item that we have is the Grant Thornton audit contract, which was just mentioned by Regent Williams and discussed thoroughly and approved by members, and now it'll be up for general approval under the consent agenda. Those are complete the items that we have for action. There are a couple of information items, and if I could just turn the page, I'll be able to. Basically, the students will be interested in this, that their income is going to increase to the new $16.94 per hour minimum wage to go along with the mandate. And the other is that GASP 103 and reporting improvements, upcoming changes will reclassify state appropriations and Pell Grants and require closer MD&A. CFOs are also redesigning board financial presentations to improve transparency, which we all look forward to, transparency and comparability. And these goals are going to be looked at again and redone in a new spending plan in 2027. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report and information. Ira, you had a comment?
Tuition reduction pilot programs.
The $5 reduction that we're giving?
Yeah. There is a $1,000 scholarship attached to one or more of these programs, as I read it.
Yes.
And who funds, that's not a reduction, tuition fee reduction. So who funds the scholarship here?
We do.
He being,
I think, let's let maybe President Toro could help us with that.
Sorry?
We offer that scholarship to every graduate student we accept at Central. The funding comes from private donors, from the foundation.
It is from private donors. I thought it was going to be part of,
And the funding for the scholarship
Yeah.
comes from private donors.
that's not a tuition, that itself is not a tuition fee reduction. It's
No,
provided-
no, it says a real scholarship.
There are two different versions. I'm a little concerned about, in general, the tuition waivers. We're very dependent on tuition revenue for the system. And there are two forms of waivers here. I mean, there are differences here, and I think we need more policy around these types of actions. The one at Eastern is basically, we treat certain students from DEP as auditors. So it's a different form of, they pay a fixed fee, which is much low, but they're also auditors in the class. They're not full participants, presumably. The tuition fee reduction, for example, for the Wethersfield Chamber of Commerce, is a reduction in the cost for certain types of, for certain groups of people. That's depending on whether it produces new students, that can either be a significant increase in revenue or a significant loss in revenue, depending on whether we're giving this to students who are already currently here, who may be members of the Wethersfield or Chamber of Commerce, or I think when we waive tuition, I think there needs to be more clarity in this and a policy around when this is appropriate, when treating somebody or students as auditors is appropriate, rather than we've been doing it the last few months as ad hoc. This. In my prior life, we ran the foul of this in the kind of ad hoc arrangement many years ago, which led the then vice chancellor of the system to say no more tuition waivers altogether, because of what was increasingly spinning into, but I think it's the lack, what we need is, these are pilot programs. At the end of the pilot programs, I think we need some kind of wrap up and policy around how we proceed afterwards.
Thank you, Chair Belducci. Regent Bloom, you had brought this up in our October 23rd board meeting at Eastern. I remember sitting in that room and Dr. Toro had presented a program, and I think it was with Trump. Yep. And you had brought this point up. In the Finance Committee last week, we had agreed that we should not be looking at these types of programs as sui generis, as you'd understand as a lawyer. We should look at them as part of a general strategy around workforce development, around engaging with the hiring community. And so what we asked going forward was to assess these pilots and then to say, can we as a group create a rubric and give with the institutional presidents, they would create it with us, and then give them this rubric that they could then go out and organize strategies for agreements instead of bringing one-off agreements to us for approval. So then we understand what those, what the parameters are, and we approve those, and then we get reported on those outcomes, and then they come to us with exceptions. We approve exceptions, but we should approve the standards going forward. So we're going to have academic affairs involved in this. We're going to have finance involved in this. We're going to have audit involved with this because there are potentially some reporting requirements here. So it's a great point. You made it 6 months ago, less 4 days, and we heard you, and you were on our mind.
Thank you. Other
Yeah,
comments?
well,
Yes.
I was just going to say that the annual reporting that we talked about, which we discussed at that meeting, as you said, Chair Gway, is still on the Finance Committee's mind. We haven't got to that 1 year, but we will be looking forward to getting those 1 year reports to understand if the goals that we're attempting to do, which is reach more people, drive our mission forward of helping to find more learners who we can help and impact their lives in a positive way. So certainly welcome the feedback and the comments and look forward to those report outs, which will certainly come to the full board.
Don?
I don't want to dig too far into the weeds on this, but I think a discussion about what these partnerships look like and a template for how they can go forward so that we're not doing everything on a case-by-case basis would be really productive. And also, I've noticed they typically provide a 5% tuition reduction or thereabouts. And I think that we have an opportunity to go much broader than that and talk about if it's a business entity, a company, what have you, a chamber of commerce, are the participants then eligible to perhaps see outside speakers that come in? Can there be a business roundtable in that community? Can we tie the 4 main state university campuses together, since they have outreach to pretty much the entire business community in Connecticut for certain online forums, discussions, networking? My guess is that many of the participants would find some of those activities as valuable, if not more, than the 5% tuition reduction. So we ought to be looking at things like that.
Great comments.
Thank you. Good point.
Can I?
Yes.
I think that I would like to provide some additional information so we can clarify the doubts that are in Regent Bloom mind. Before I give the green light to any of these agreements, I ask for the following analysis. I ask enrollment management to look at historical data, tell me, without the agreement, how many students, graduate students, we should expect to enroll. And they give me that baseline. Then how many students we should expect to enroll with this agreement? They give me a range. And then if I see that there is a significant potential financial benefit out of this partnership, then I give the green light. Otherwise, I don't give the green light. That is an analysis that we go through with each one of these agreements. And let me talk about the Trump agreement and let me talk about the electric boat agreement, because those are big companies that have a significant impact in what we do at Central. First, with the Trump agreement, we have the opportunity not only to have the apprenticeships from Trump, but they are creating a consortium of companies that are implementing the same apprenticeship program. So we have a huge pool of companies that can come to Central following Trump. With Trump, we have faculty that are able to go to Trump and learn from what is going on in the shop floor. We have the opportunity for internship for students. As we speak, we have a number of students doing internship at Trump. We have the connections with the headquarters in Germany because we have a collaboration with a German university, and our students can go to Germany and do internship in their facility in Germany. Electric boat, I think I don't have to talk too much about how impactful they are in the state. We start with 20 apprenticeships, but there are a lot of opportunities for them. They serve on our advisory boards. They guide the changes in the curriculum that they need. There are a lot of collaboration with these companies. To your point, is well beyond these 5% discount. I think the other important point that was made by the chair of the board is this is part of a big strategy for the institution in the area of workforce and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for your comments. We've come a long way over the years, having served on its board for maybe too many years, but 30. Thank you for reminding me. But I think we've come a long way in the direction of positive direction as far as increasing student enrollment, extending programs for our students compared to other colleges and universities, not only in the state, but outside of the state too. Yes, I want to say Representative Casamento. Charlene?
Thank you. I was part of the inaugural program that Central had launched, I guess almost 10 years ago. And so one of the other parts that's really important to think about is that in many instances, these companies are paying 100% of whatever the cost is. So the statutes require a set aside of 15% for the tuition. Those students, when their employer is paying 100%, they don't need the financial aid that our other students. So in some ways, they're contributing to 15%. The other financial component that's really worth noting is that when those companies are paying all of it, the employees aren't chasing that money down. There's a whole labor savings that are a little bit, unquantifiable, that exists in terms of managing. The bursars work hard in terms of trying to collect funds, make payment arrangements. All of that work isn't happening if an employer is making a commitment to their employees to collaborate with an institution or institutions. So just something as people are thinking about policies to consider. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. When we think about the state strategic plan, it is industry driven. And so the best practice is a close connection between industry partners and our academic institutions to ensure that what is being taught at the institution is applicable to what is in demand in the labor market. And this practice is really can be considered a best practice in making that strong connection. Not only is it informing curriculum, but the opportunity for faculty to engage with these businesses and go inside of these organizations and truly understand what it is that is in demand and how to take the theoretical that they're teaching in their classrooms and make it into a practical application is really invaluable. And the opportunity for students to get those really meaningful work-based learning experiences is also unquantifiable. I go back to the comments that Luis made to us this morning. All of our businesses need not only the theoretical, but the applied. And so our students are graduating, and many of them are having a hard time finding employment upon graduation because they don't have that practical applied experience. And every time we can give a student that ability to have that experience, will enhance their employability skills. And the more we can do that while they're still in college and having these work-based learning experiences and connecting them to employers, in many, many cases, employers are hiring these students. They're employed upon graduation. So I commend this policy and support it as a best practice, especially with the employer connection piece.
Thank you. Other comments? That's important, I think. Yes,
Yeah,
Chancellor.
yeah, real quickly, we've spoken to the finances in Region Bloom. I understand the importance of policy to help govern the way we do it appropriately. And I think our presidents are demonstrating that But I'll be blunt, as a system and as institutions, we do hear negative feedback from employers and from business partners about the pace by which higher ed is operating in, right? And we have to remind ourselves as a system, we are not the only forms of higher education here in the state of Connecticut. So as a system, right, I am both selfish and petty. I don't want our business partners to go to the independents or that other quote unquote institution in stores, right? I would prefer for them to work with our institutions. We have the greatest reach in the state of Connecticut, hard stop, period. More accessible, more affordable, right? Every corner, right? Let's leverage that. That is our asset, right? So I think there's an opportunity for us to come together, regents and presidents and system office officials, to have better tools like a rubric, giving autonomy to our presidents, right? So it's not laborious, right? But also making sure that there is the regent BOR oversight to make sure that we're doing this in the right way, right? But we are facing an existential threat in Connecticut, if not in this country, when it comes to workforce, right? So the status quo is not good enough for us to move the needle as it relates to scale, addressing the shortages across the board. So I believe the intentions are great in this room. Let's just come together and refine something that works for us. Chair Balducci.
Thank you. Yeah, so one of the things I think is important, because I found people saying to me, I've got that subject covered, I've had it, but the first thing they ask is, have you had experience? And if you don't have experience, they say, well, that's great, come back, we like what you've got in your academics, but we want somebody with experience. And getting programs that will do that, businesses that will say, okay, we'll take you in for 6 months and you can get, I don't know, 6 credits or whatever it is, which is good. But then you can then respond to other businesses when you go, yes, this is my major, this is what I'm interested in. But I've worked at, I don't know, I don't mean to be picking, but I worked at Pratt and Whitney for an entire semester. And I know how to do this, that, or the other thing. So I think that's a critical part of where we have to go for these students, is getting them this experience while they're still in school, so that when they leave, they're able to say, yes, I've done that, or I've worked there and I understand. I didn't mean to drone on, but any other comments? Hearing none, then, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report from the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Chair Balducci, for the discussion. I was at Trump last night, Dr. Toro, for a meeting with the German American Chamber of Commerce, and there's hundreds of German companies based in Connecticut. Germany is actually Connecticut's largest trading partner because of the high-tech industrial precision manufacturing that's done in Connecticut. And they called out your program in part of the discussions with, CEOs from all over the state. So thanks for all you do to lead this effort, and for everyone else to push us to make it much better and faster. I have a bias in life, and that's for speed. I'd like to now turn it over to our Governance and Nomination Committee Chair, Rick Porth. I understand that you have a report today.
I do, thank you. We've been working hard on a number of different issues. We don't have any action items for today's meeting, but we hope to bring a couple in at the next meeting. Our last Governance and Nominations Committee meeting was on March 9th. Juanita James, Don Williams, and Ira Bloom and I all participated, as well as Karen Buffkin, Jessica Paquette, and Felicia Brown. And we appreciate their help in this. We are working right now on a leadership continuity policy. I mentioned this last month in my report, but we continue to fine tune this policy. And I think we'll have it ready again the next time we meet as a full board. It's intended to clear the lines of authority in the absence of the chancellor or an institutional president, with procedures that would address short-term, long-term, and extended absences. We have shared the draft with the policy committee in accordance with our policy on policies for feedback, and we expect to have it ready for our next full board meeting. We also reviewed a draft protocol. We had a discussion about whether this should be presented here at the full board as a protocol or a formal policy, but the discussion was around emergency decision-making, decisions between regularly scheduled Board of Regents meetings. It was a real good discussion, but we finished, I think, closer to the finish line, but we have what we want to present is not yet ready for the full board. Hopefully, it'll be ready soon. I just want to say that in this whole discussion, I think our goal is to ensure transparency and wherever it's feasible to include the full board, to make sure the full board is aware of any decisions, any meetings or formal actions that take place in between normally scheduled board meetings, and have the opportunity to participate as well. And we're trying to do that in the context of obviously the Freedom of Information Law, Open Public Meetings Act, and our own bylaws. I'll say in relation to this, the board took an action a few months ago with regard to clarifying the role of the Governance and Nominations Committee, particularly vis-a-vis the Executive Committee. We hope that whatever we bring in will also make that clear and that the board will sign on to how that relationship works going forward. So that policy, again, I hope we'll bring to the next. We talked about, and all of the members of the board have heard from Karen and her staff about scheduling the training sessions. We started out to do them in groups of 3 or 4. We've changed that based on our chairman's recommendation. I think it's a good one, that we try for 1 or at most 2 meetings in the next month or 2 months, in expectation that the more people participate from the board, the more opportunity for discussion around this orientation. The orientation has been circulating now for a couple months. It now will include the document that we all adopted for the board's roles and responsibilities. We'll also make sure to emphasize something that we discussed earlier this meeting, issues related to ethics, travel, expenses, gifts, and so on and so forth. It's an important part of the orientation. That's coming. We hope we'll have, again, I know you've all been hearing from us on this. We hope we'll have a meeting or at most 2 meetings scheduled in the next month or so. That's also, again, part of our obligation with regard to the state's new law addressing onboarding for Board of Regent members. Then finally, we are conducting a charter review. Don mentioned it in his report, and we have reached out to the chair of each of the board committees, asking each committee to submit recommendations on how their charters might be strengthened or added or modified in some way. And that's going on, and we'll have that. We also talked about nominations. There are also the nominations committee, and we want a regular process that will allow this board to provide input and recommendations to our appointing authorities when new positions on the board become available, and that's an ongoing discussion. So I think that's my full report. Again, no action today, but we intend to bring in a few things in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Porth, and no action today, but an incredible amount of action from all of our Governance and Nominations Committee members over the last several months to really stand this up. And I want to commend my vice chair. I don't often give her the credit because I'm sitting in front of a microphone most of the time, but Juanita has been a great driver in the transformation of the BOR around getting strength in our committees and getting our governance really stood up in a great way. Juanita was appointed, I don't think you volunteered, I think you were appointed chair of the newly created governance committee. I think it was September 25th in 2024. And I appreciate all the hard work to now. So thank you to you and all the committees and all the committee chairs for working in a much more collegial and collaborative way. With that, I'd like to go to the Human Resources Administrative Committee Chair, Sophia Japanin. I understand that this month you don't have a report, but you have a microphone.
I do have a microphone. Thank you, Chair Good. We don't have a report today. We do not have a report today.
Thank you so kindly.
Yeah.
Our Technology Committee Chair, Ted Yang, is absent at this meeting. Regent Santiago, I understand there's no action items. Is there a report?
No action items. I think the only report was and I'm now, give me 1 second. We at our last board meeting had talked about the use of institutional reserves at Charter Oak for an AI project, and that was approved with the contingency that there would be a monthly update on that project at the Technology Committee meeting. Just wanted to report back to the board that has been met. That agenda item was added. There is no progress as to yet, but I just did want to validate that that request from the board was met, and we will continue to get that update monthly at the Technology Committee meeting. And when the Chair Yang is here, I'm sure he'll provide updates as appropriate.
Thank you for your diligence around that. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the consent agenda, and there's 14 items before us. Those were discussed in all the committee reports. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
There is a second. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Our consent agenda is approved, and thanks again for all the hard work in those areas. The next item on the agenda are institutional updates, and I'd like to open the floor to our institutional presidents to provide us with an update. And I'd like to move in alphabetical order of last name, and I think you can figure this out. This is not a litmus test, but it is a test. So I'll start with President Bernal, if there's any updates.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Gui. Just two updates in really two parts. One, we have adopted a industry partnership framework at WestConn, which really focuses in 4 areas. And then I want to tell you what 2 of those partnerships are. One, we're looking to work with partners around these discount programs for easy pathways to completing a degree, upskilling or reskilling. The second part of that is providing credit currency to training that's already happening in the company. So can we have our faculty members provide credit for things that are happening in the corporation? The second is really co-designing customized academic programs for our partners in partnership with our faculty members. And then, of course, opening doors to our students for internships, co-op, applied learning, job pathways, all of those. One that we're excited to announce, and some of you know about this, is that we are a new target school for Beringer Ingelheim. We're one of 12 around the world and only 4 in the United States. We are standing alongside Harvard, Kansas, and Vanderbilt. And being a target school with BI really is going to be game-changing for us. They're going to be taking over our campus. They're providing new lab and computer equipment to us. We are also working on some internship, mentorship, and other kinds of programs. We have been able to meet with their new president, G-Michael Bors, who is a big fan of WestConn. In fact, 200 of his employees in Danbury are alums of ours. And so he was surprised by that. So we're going to continue to make pathways and opportunities for that. The other great partnership that we have, and I want to thank many of you for opening the door for us, we are the first university in the state of Connecticut to host a American Job Center on our campus. We cut the ribbon last week with the Northwest Regional workforce investment board. So in addition to the populations that that center has traditionally served, they're also opening up their doors to our own students. So another way to get career guidance, advice, pathways to jobs, coaching, resume support, and all other kinds of things. Mayor Alves was there, as well as the Danbury delegation. They're really excited about the growing partnership. And then finally, what I would say is, we are all in on student retention. I shared with our campus community this last week, while we have a mission to serve our students successfully and get them to a degree, this is also a financial measure for us. For every 1% that we change year to year retention, it's $1 million in new revenue. And so as we continue to think about this from the ethical responsibility standpoint, we also see this as strengthening our finances. And there are really two efforts that we put into place. My campus is getting annoyed at me because I keep asking them to use AI more and more and more and more. So two AI-enabled tools that we are implementing. One is an AI-enabled personalized financial aid award video. This is only being done at about 6 institutions across the country where students are receiving personalized videos that tell them about explaining, this really complex financial aid award, but also telling them about everything that's going on at WestConn. And it's personalized to them and what we know they care about. It's personalized to their families. The institutions that have implemented this have seen up to 30% yield in enrollment, and so we're testing that right now. And the second piece is through a program, an AI-enabled Target X program, student success module. And there's a lot of programs that do early alerts that are really reactive. So a student's failing a class or a student fails a midterm and somebody reaches out to them. What this program is enabling us to do is to predict where we know a student is likely to get into trouble and intervene before they even get close to that. And so we're enabling this with our academic advisors and some of our faculty departments. And we're in early pilot phase with about 8 of our faculty members and are going to continue to evaluate that and test it and hopefully deploy it at scale. So I just wanted to share a couple of things going on at WestConn.
Thank you. President Bulmer, any comments?
Thank you so much. I'm hopeful that my connection is working well enough where you can hear me. I really just want to acknowledge it is the toughest months we find in the academic calendar to get through March and April and to the finish line to celebrate the month of May. So I do want to acknowledge how hard all of our faculty and staff are working at this time of year. And I want to just remind everyone that we will be celebrating on Monday with the CSCU Center for Quantum and Nanotechnology. We had to reschedule our ribbon cutting and dedication due to the snowstorm that happened a couple of weeks ago. We are really thrilled that many of the legislators will be able to join us for that event, including the governor and Senator Blumenthal and many others. And we hope that if that is possible, that you'll be able to join us as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Bulmer. Who's next? It'll be President Ismaili at Eastern.
Thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to focus my brief remarks, on some of the amazing things that our students are doing at Eastern. 6 students recently presented their research at the first ever undergraduate research poster session at the Modern Language Association Convention, which took place in Toronto in January. 18 students from Eastern's College of Business are providing cost-free tax preparation services to local community members through the IRS's Voluntary Income Tax Assistance Program this tax season. 7 Eastern students were awarded Aspiring Educator Scholarships for the spring 2026 semester through the State Department of Education. The goal is to strengthen the educator workforce in Connecticut and to reduce the financial barriers to pursuing a career in the profession. 13 psychology students presented their research at the 97th annual meeting of the Eastern Psychological Association in Boston, which is the oldest psychology association in the United States. Eastern students showcased their entrepreneurial skills at the College of Business's 3rd annual Big Idea Pitch competition. The Shark Tank style contest featured 20 original business ideas presented by Eastern students to a panel of faculty and staff members. 5 students presented 3 different papers at the 2026 Impact Conference on initiatives organized through the university's Center for Community Engagement. And I just wanted to highlight some individual achievements. Our psychology major, Gabriel Williams, recently won the Excellence in Research Design Award from the Connecticut Association for Behavior Analysts. Our sociology major, Ananya Patel, recently presented her senior seminar capstone research project at the Eastern Sociological Society Conference in Washington, D.C. In early March. Jillian Martin received a Design, Technology, and Management Excellence Award in Lighting Design for the Wonder of the World theater production. And Horalis Gorkachea was awarded a Teach Connecticut Teacher Shortage Area Scholarship for the 25-26 school year. I wanted to take this opportunity to share these incredible accomplishments of our students, but also to recognize that that doesn't happen accidentally. It's the intentional support that our faculty and staff provides. And I really appreciate the opportunity for me to share that snapshot of all the great things that are happening with our students at Eastern. Thank you.
Thank you, President Smaili, and please convey our congratulations to all those successes on the Eastern Campus. President Klanowski.
Thank you. I'm pleased to give a brief update on the many positive things happening at Charter Oak, and I want to give the board a shout out. This is a new thing for us to present some current events to you, and I hope you will continue it for a long time. Charter Oak continues to build strong momentum as Connecticut's public online college. One of the most encouraging developments is our continued enrollment growth. As of last Friday, our spring 2026 enrollment headcount is up 18.3%. Over 2 years, that's 36.3%. That growth signals that our mission, our academic model, and our student-centered approach are resonating with learners across the state and beyond. We're also making important progress in innovation and workforce alignment. Charter Oak is officially partnering with the Business Higher Education Forum, Kristen Fox's organization, and Axum Collaborative as part of a broader AI Academy expansion effort. This work's ambitious and future-focused with a goal of reaching 10,000 learners within 5 years on our non-credit side through CharterX Open edX platform that's currently under development. We've already touched 2,000 students. Board members are invited to our kickoff announcement that will be held on March 30th. Here's some privileged information. It'll be at the Science Center. And this reflects the direction of the college: practical, flexible, workforce-connected education that meets students where they are. Internally, our college's AI advisory group is helping guide implementation and support the faculty, staff, and students. The AI advisory group expects to update our current report on our website with a focus on 4 areas: an AI landscape analysis, recommendations on how to embed BHEF AI-enabled professional framework into all our baccalaureate programs, updated student use guidelines for the ethical and practical use of AI, and guidelines for faculty and staff on the ethical and practical use of AI in accordance with the any AI policy that the board passes. And I know you all are working on that. At the same time, we continue to focus on academic quality and institutional improvement. We're actively preparing for our upcoming NECHI visit in fall 2026. Our self-study is coming along. Draft 3 will be out in 2 weeks. And we will be soliciting feedback on our draft report in the coming months from CSCU stakeholders. So finally, Charter Oak is in a very positive position. We're growing, we're innovating, we're strengthening academic quality, and we're continuing to expand access to flexible, career-connected education for the learners and communities we serve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, President Klanowski, and look forward to seeing you at the March 30th event. President Royale.
Thank you, Chair Gray. First, my apologies to the board and the ASA committee. I didn't want to miss the opportunity to share some information about Sarah Gadsby, who, as Regent Bloom mentioned earlier, is a nominee for an honorary degree with CT State Middlesex commencement. Sarah Gadsby is a mental health professional with over 25 years in both the public and private sectors. She currently serves as the CEO of River Valley Services and has a long and established career serving the Middlesex County through residential programs, respite services, and a mobile response. Ms. Gadby is deeply committed to evidence-based clinical practice delivered with empathy, dignity, and compassion. As a licensed clinical social worker, she specializes in trauma-informed care and champions the importance of integrated behavioral health services. In partnership with the Rotary Club of Middletown and CT State Middlesex, Ms. Gadby has played a central role in the Take a Moment campaign, a public health awareness initiative focused on reducing stigma and encouraging open, community-based conversations about well-being and support. Through this collaboration with our Center for New Media, students have produced public service videos and podcasts that combine experiential learning with civic engagement, extending the reach of our mental health education throughout the region. We're grateful for Ms. Gadby's service and commitment to the Middlesex County community and very happy to support her candidacy for an honorary degree. A few other updates. We are seeing continued enrollment momentum this spring, making our second consecutive year of growth, the first time since 2011-2012. And as many of you know, we're excitedly developing our vision for the future. The strategic plan is helping us align our college priorities while also strengthening the distinct identities of each of our campuses within our one college model. Engagement across our 12 campuses and our satellite campuses have been very meaningful, with faculty, staff, students actively contributing through campus conversations, surveys, feedback sessions, all focused on shaping our future together. Our steering committee continues to meet regularly, working closely with institutional data to identify trends, surface challenges, and ensure recommendations are grounded in evidence and positioned for action that align with the goals of our system and state. In terms of our brief timeline, this semester we're engaging faculty, staff, students, and external partners. In the summer, we will have our steering committee continue to analyze the data that they've been looking at this semester and start to develop the draft plan. In the fall, we'll be refining and finalizing that plan and certainly engaging in our committees with the board. And the goal is to roll out our plan in the beginning of January 2027. I also want to take a moment to talk a little bit about a great example of how our mission and commitment to driving Connecticut's workforce and high demand careers is playing out. We recently launched a new dental assistant program at our CT State Gateway campus, creating a fast, affordable pathway into this growing healthcare field. CT State now offers dental assisting training across 6 campuses, both credit and non-credit, providing flexible entry points for students and working adults. Gateway, Esnuntuck, Norwalk, Three Rivers, Manchester, and our Tunxus campus. Students will gain hands-on clinical experience and industry-recognized training that connects directly to employment opportunities. It's a strong example of how CT State is expanding access, strengthening our workforce pipelines, and supporting the state's healthcare systems. And lastly, I want to take a moment to celebrate a faculty achievement. Dr. Forrest Helvey, Chair of the Center for Career in Education and Training and Professor of English at CT State Tunxus, has been elected President of the Learning Assistants Association of New England. Lane is a regional leader in advancing student success across 6 New England states and is affiliated with the National Organization for Student Success. In this role, Dr. Helvey will guide regional efforts to strengthen student success initiatives and support educators across New England. This recognition reflects the expertise and leadership of our CT State faculty and reinforces our commitment to student success at both the regional and the national levels. Thank you.
Thank you, President Royale, and please convey to Lane our congratulations from the Board of Regents. Dr. Toro, the last shall be first.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. There are a lot of things happening at Central. I will highlight only 5 of them. But before I do that, I want to publicly acknowledge the dedication and commitment of the faculty, staff, students, and administration at Central. I am asking them to produce something in record time, and they are stepping up to the challenge. I cannot be more proud of all of them. I would like to share with you that this week we have a group of students along with faculty at the University of Puerto Rico Medical Sciences campus in an immersion program as part of the certificate in Spanish for health professions. They are working alongside of the most renowned medical professionals in Puerto Rico. It has been a transformative experience for the students, but for the faculty as well. Last night, I received a text from one of the faculty members just expressing appreciation because it has been a life-changing experience for them. We will continue expanding that collaboration with the Medical Sciences campus as we add more programs in the health professions area at Central. We just recently established a partnership with the University of Hartford that will allow students that complete an undergraduate degree there to be admitted to our Master of Science in that lead training program with no discount. So they will pay full tuition, and I am so happy because this program, again, it's unique and will help graduate level enrollment. Just recently, we were informed that the federal government is granting us $850,000 to support our workforce and innovation hubs. This will go towards programmatic initiatives. We receive a grant also from the Davis Foundation to explore and plan for becoming an R2 Polytechnic University. This process of exploration is well underway. Last week, we had, during the whole week, a consultant, and the chancellor and I had the opportunity to meet with that consultant, and it was extremely valuable. Finally, last week as well, the CCSU Foundation approved the purchase of a building to locate the Workforce and Innovation Hub. So a lot of developments, everyone working very diligently, looking forward to having more conversations with this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Presidents Bernal, Balmer, Ismaili, Klanowski, Royale, and Toro. We really appreciate your efforts. We really appreciate the leadership that you're driving in all of our institutions. It's really impressive, the work that you're doing. So thank you on behalf of the board. Before I call for a motion to move to executive session, let me state that the Board of Regents will move to executive session in accordance with 1-200 subsection 6E of the general statutes to discuss a preliminary draft related to board affairs and strategy and negotiations with respect to collective bargaining. No votes will be taken in executive session. This Board of Regents will reconvene today following executive session solely for the purpose of adjourning. In addition to the committee members, the only individuals who will be in attendance in the executive session are as follows: Chancellor John Maduco, Karen Buffkin, Lloyd Blanchard, Adam Joseph, Jennifer Person, Jessica Paquette, and Danny Anello. For all are part of the executive session as they have information pertinent or testimony related to the matters being discussed. Therefore, allow me to call for a motion to move to executive session for the purposes as I have described above. Any discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? This motion carries. I'd like to thank everyone again before we pause live streaming. Thanks for all you do. And I'd ask for live streaming to be paused. Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn the Board of Regents meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? This motion carries. Our board meeting is now adjourned.